All right, guys, welcome back to another Paris, Texas, a podcast. This is Thanksgiving week. And with being Thanksgiving week, I wanted to do something that was reminiscent of Thanksgiving. The thankfulness for Thanksgiving and family, that you come together with Thanksgiving. So I brought a very special guest, somebody very dear to me, onto the podcast. And that is my mother, Cherie Denise Nicholson.
Hello.
So, I love hearing stories, and I know my mother's story, but I think she has a pretty amazing story. So I'm excited for you guys to hear as much of it as we can. I don't want to go too long, but we probably could talk for hours because it's, me and my mom. And I'm going to try really hard. And she probably won't help, but I'm going to try really hard not to dip into me because, I will probably be sprinkled in there here and there. But, so, Mom, where are you from?
Well, Sumner right now.
No,
Texas.
where were you born?
Oh, I was born in Dallas.
In Dallas?
Yes.
And, wow. And so how long did you live in Dallas?
Till I was probably about 6 years old.
Okay.
Maybe. Somewhere around there.
Okay. And what did your father and mother do?
My dad was a woodworker. He made decoupage boards and purses back in the day where women carried around, believe it or not, wood purses. I've got one. Have you ever seen it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, and shadow boxes, just stuff like that. And he had started a business making that kind of stuff. It was with Tandy, I think, who he done most of his business for, was the Tandy Handicraft. I don't know if anybody remembers any of that back then, but that's what moved us down here.
And what did Grandma do / your mom?
She was the secretary /
Oh,
business person.
Yeah, it's kind of what Kimmy is for me.
Yeah, kind of.
Awesome. Okay, so 6 years in Dallas, and then when y'all moved to Paris?
Correct.
Did they have family already here?
Yes. Dad's mom lived here, and, several of his siblings did. None of my mom's, most of hers were still in Dallas. She wasn't real happy about being here, but she settled in pretty good.
And how many siblings did you have?
Did I have?
Mm-hmm.
I got 2 sisters and 1 brother.
Okay. Where were you fixing to say?
They had, my dad and my mom. My dad there was 9 of them, and there was 9 of my mom and dad and my mom. So
9 brothers and sisters and 9 brothers and sisters.
Right, on both sides, yeah.
And that's rare because we don't see that kind of.
Not now.
Yeah. So that's definitely a lot of family. Okay, so you had two sisters, 1 brother.
Right.
So can you, what are their names? I know all these answers, people. I just trying to make the story continue.
Of course, there's Brenda. She's my oldest.
Mm-hmm.
And she lives in close to Waxahachie. It's called Maypearl. And then there's my brother Benton. He lives here in Paris. And then my younger sister Renee, who lives here in Paris.
Awesome. All right, so 6 years old. Were all of them born at that time? When y'all moved here? Was everybody born?
Yeah, everybody was already born.
Okay.
I think Renee was, 1 or 2 years old. She was pretty young.
So, and did y'all move? Okay, because I know the house, where the wood shop was out on 1924.
Correct.
Is that where y'all moved to?
There was, and that's kind of vague to me because I was so young, but there was a rent house we lived in for
a minute.
Yeah, a minute before that because they were building the house that we moved in. So.
And if I remember my history right, y'all, okay, so there was the wood shop there, and then there was a big house, because not a big house, but there was a house, and then there was a lot of different stuff there, but it burnt down at some point, right?
The shop did.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually not the office part of it or where the store was, what they called, but the part where it had all the saws and the drills and the things that they built.
And it was pretty big. Like he had, because I've ran into people who worked for him. He had employees and people who made the purses and toys and stuff.
Yes, he probably had, I want to say, maybe 20 at the most. And usually they were kids from school that worked for him, done most of his work. Now, he had a couple of older people that, worked there all day long, but for the most part, most of his employees were kids from school.
Was there a name for this shop?
Specialty Wood Products.
Specialty Wood Products? Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so what age were you when all this was, when y'all were in that house and it burnt down and the big shop and all that?
Oh, now when it burnt down, to tell you the truth, I didn't even live there. It was probably in my 20s.
Oh, wow. Wow. So he did wood stuff from when you were born to your 20s?
Well, actually, to tell you the truth, when it burnt, he had kind of slowed down on the woodwork. I mean, he done it on the side kind of still, but he had went to driving a truck full time, or I guess part-time driving a truck and part-time still doing the woodwork, because it had kind of slowed down, because it's kind of, how phases and the wood purses and the shadow box and stuff like that was kind of dying at that point. So it was kind of slowing down, and he had to start doing something else, and he started driving a truck.
18-wheeler truck.
Yes.
And he did that like long distance kind of stuff too, didn't he?
Yeah.
All over.
And it was usually either grain or cattle.
Okay. So by the time you were in 20s, he was driving trucks. You'd moved out, right?
Yeah.
What were you doing in that time frame?
I'm trying to remember. I was living in Paris. I guess it was about the time me and your dad were,
together.
Together, yes.
And how old were you when you had me?
I was 20.
You were 20. Wow. I knew that. Awesome. So you're 20. You've got a baby boy. A definitely handsome, amazing, cute little boy.
I agree.
What'd you do next?
We moved to Dallas and lived with your dad's mom for a little while. Worked there at some places. Actually, I worked at a pizza place, Pizza Inn or something like that there, and it wasn't Dallas, it was Arlington was actually where I lived, and we stayed there a couple of years, or I stayed there a couple of years.
Okay, awesome. And then where'd you go from there?
I moved back here to Paris.
Awesome. Now I remember, okay, this might jump back a little bit, but I just jogged my memory. When you were little, I've heard stories about you, Grandma and Grandpa would go out and y'all would basically live at the lake. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, we done that when and that was when I was young, and yeah.
Because I've seen pictures of, like, I think it's Aunt Renee on top of either Uncle Benton or on Uncle Benton's shoulders water skiing behind a boat.
Yeah, we done a lot of water skiing, and Papa and Grandma, they fished a lot, but after they fished, they'd come get us, and we'd take us out, and all of us would ski.
Were y'all still doing that when you moved back in your 20s after you had me?
No, that had kind of slowed down.
Okay. But you do that a lot now, don't you? Well,
Yes.
not water skiing.
Not the water skiing.
But you love going to the lake and,
and camping
fishing and camping and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I can't even water ski.
I can't either anymore. I've tried several times and just...
It's not quite like riding a bike.
No.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I jumped back there a little bit. Sometimes I remember old stuff. So you're back. Did you get a job?
When I got back, worked at some restaurants and just went back and forth between different restaurants, and I actually worked at Sun Valley at one point for a little while, and then actually Sun Valley is where I met a guy that worked at Kimberly-Clark, and he said something about applying there, which I did, and that's when I started working at Kimberly-Clark, and I stayed there for 18 years.
And how old was I when you started at Kimberly-Clark?
Ooh, I'm trying to think. You were probably 3 or 4, I'm thinking.
Awesome. All right, so I remember the story, so I'm gonna talk about it real quick. So Kimberly-Clark had a rule that back then, that's not a rule anymore, but Kimberly-Clark had a rule that you couldn't have not relationships. You couldn't be married to or have a relative work there. Is that correct? Right. And then you had so you had met somebody while you were working there.
Correct.
And so, what was his name? The guy you met there.
Oh, David Nicholson.
David, and you end up marrying David. He ends up becoming my stepdad.
Correct.
So that made y'all kind of loopholed the system there a little bit, didn't you?
Well, when we had done it, there had been several people we weren't the first ones.
All right. But it still was a loophole in the system.
Yeah, it was. But
it worked. Y'all were able, and it was a big plan. I mean, and he was probably on a different side of the building, and it wasn't like y'all worked in the same division or whatever. Actually,
we did stay. We were in this because back then there wasn't the 2 different sides. It was just the diaper. Just the only side there was the diaper side. So, but like I said, it was all right. Like I said, it was a loophole, but
it worked.
It worked.
Awesome. Okay, so you guys. Okay, so you married David. How old was I? How old were you when you married David?
We actually started dating. You were probably about 5 or 6, and we dated for about 3 years before we got married. So you were 7 or 8 whenever we got married.
Okay, and so you got married. I remember we moved out to. He had some land out on 82.
Yes.
And we moved out there, and we stayed there for a few years until y'all bought some. I'm telling your story for you.
That's all right, because you're better at it than I am.
We bought a bunch of land over by on 79 out in Globe.
Right.
Outside of Sumner. Okay, so how old were you when we moved out to Globe? You remember what time frame that was?
I want to say 30, around 30. I'm thinking 29, 30.
Awesome. Oh. All right, so I'm going to jump forward a little bit because not a lot happened in those days. We lived on a farm. It was
boring to you.
Yeah, it was boring to me.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't know if any of y'all have met me. I'm not the farm type, but it is way up David's alley. So we grow up. I go to school. We go to high school. You and David continued working at Kimberly-Clark until what happened in, I think it was in your 40s, you decided to go back to school?
Yes. I went back to, actually, probably for about 3 years while I worked at Kimberly-Clark, took my prerequisites classes at PJC to get into nursing school.
Awesome.
So that was about a 3-year stint while I was working at Kimberly-Clark. And then I one day at Kimberly-Clark was looking at the paperwork and thought, well, I think I will apply for the nursing program, and thought that it would take longer to get into it than it did. But I applied and I got in that year. So I quit Kimberly-Clark, which was
scary.
Yes. And went to school.
Okay, so you went to school. David stayed at Kimberly-Clark, and you finished. So you went to school and you finished school. You became a RN, correct?
Correct.
And then you started working. Where was your first nursing job?
The first one was there at the hospital. I worked on the 7th floor. It was just.
This is the one downtown, right? It's not really open anymore, kind of, sort of.
Right. No, I don't think it's open at all.
I think they utilize the first floor for some stuff.
Office stuff, yeah.
Office stuff, but as a hospital, it's not really used as a hospital anymore.
Right. But I had worked med surge for about 6 months, and then decided that really wasn't where I wanted to be. So they had a job over in the PD unit on the other side, on the north side.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied for it and went to work in the PD unit, and I stayed there for about 3 years. And then it was nights. I was working nights, and Ethan was getting a little older, and
your youngest child.
Yes, and needed a little of attention at home. So I went to work with a home health company, and I worked there for about 3 years. And when I had the aneurysm, I was kind of bouncing between doing wound care and working for a doctor's office.
So you just jumped into a big story there. A lot of these people probably don't know what just happened. So explain what you meant by when you had the aneurysm.
While I was working at the wound care center, and I wasn't at work, but one day I started having a headache, and which I had headaches before, but this one lasted 3 days long. And on the 3rd day, I went to the doctor's office, and he ordered a CT scan. So they don't. When you do CT scans, you don't go straight to the office and get them. They have to schedule you. So I had one scheduled for that afternoon, and my dad had actually took me to the doctor's office because my head hurt that bad, and so he drove me back home. And this is just vague, just I don't remember a whole lot, but I remember being at home, telling my dad to call David, and he didn't know David's number, and I couldn't tell him David's number because I guess my head was hurting. And so I told him, I said, call 911. And that's the last thing I remember. So I can't really tell the rest of the story, until afterwards, because
so you collapsed. I can tell you a little bit of it, and you've heard some of it because your best friend Michelle kept a
diary.
Diary of sorts, because this was months of time had passed through this, that you were kind of checked out. So you had passed out. You went to the hospital. The ambulance that came and got you, Aunt Renee found out, and then everyone found out.
Yeah.
So I remember me and David were the first ones to get to the hospital, and this was some scary times because you coded while we were there, and we didn't know what was going on, and then you got care flighted to Dallas. So we dropped everything. David had to wrap up some stuff, and I think he had to get Ethan maybe. Mm-hmm. And we had to get to Dallas as quick as we could. I beat David there, but not by much. And then you spent 3 months. You had you battled a bunch of different things. The aneurysm.
That David said, and David tells me all the time, there were, I think it was like 7 things that could happen when you had an aneurysm. You know, not 7 things that would happen, but 7 things that could happen. And he said, I done them all.
Yeah, you covered them all.
Yeah.
And I remember the doctor said that probably 90% of people that have an aneurysm like what you had don't leave their home. So it was scary for all the route. And then on top of that, not to get into my story, but I had my first child while you were in a medical induced coma.
Correct.
Which was difficult. Just difficult for me, but difficult to not have you there for me. Not to make you cry. But the positive side of the story is you obviously are a tough cookie, because you beat all 7 of those things, and you beat many odds that were against you, and then you were able to come back, and you even had things, you fell down afterwards.
Broke my hip.
Broke your hip. And so even after you were fully back and everything, you had more roadblocks. We'll call them speed bumps or roadblocks or whatever. But you were able to battle all of those. Can you give us a little bit of, I don't know, you've told a little bit of your side of kind of what you got out of this whole experience?
First of all, I the biggest thing that I like people to know is that, prayer works. And I feel like when you talk about me being a tough cookie, and that, how some people say lucky I was, I just think it was a God thing. I don't think I would have made it without lots of prayers. And although while I was asleep I don't remember them prayers, I do feel them now when people talk to me about what they did at that time. That's my favorite part, is to hear people tell me how they prayed for me and the things that happened when they prayed for me at that time. So that's my initial thought about the whole thing. But like you said, when I did wake up and when I did get home, there was a year to a two-year period that, I had troubles with my memory, remembering things. There's still things in that first year and a half that I don't remember. Did not think that I would ever be able to go back to work or be able to have a normal life. And again, I think through people praying for me and for, just me being positive about knowing that it was, what I was going to do was going to be a God thing. It was something that He really wanted me to do, and I still do that. I still trust in Him and believe that He's going to take me through whatever it is I need to go through.
It's amazing.
But he I thank Him every day. I've really thanked Him this week. I mean, I'm here for my 6th grandbaby. I mean, I just feel like if it's all Him. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Him.
I mean, in the spirit of talking about thankfulness for during this Thanksgiving season, I mean that's a huge one for being thankful for. I remember you told me this story once about how I think it was 2 years after your aneurysm. Facebook does this thing where they're like, "This is what happened 2 years ago," and it'll give you like little pictures or text or someone wrote on your wall 2 years ago, and so you got to relive what a lot of people were. They were giving out prayers through like Facebook or comments and stuff, and just loving on you during that time frame, which you weren't awake for to get on your phone or on thing, but you were able to see those 2 years later. And even now, sometimes you'll get them. They'll say, "How long's it been this January? How long will it be?"
It's 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
I should know that because Liam was born.
Yeah.
8 years, and you still get stuff that'll say 8 years ago this happened.
Yeah, it's funny because, like you said, it's things I see on Facebook, and I still have things around the house that I'll find, like cards or, some of the stuff from the hospital, some of the records from the hospital. I'll look at them and I'll be reading them, and I'll say, somebody will send me a card and it says really something sweet on it. And I'll say, oh, it's like I just
saw it for the first time sign. Yeah.
I just first got the card, so it's kind of neat, and like you said, it's like I'm reliving, a lot of it, getting that experience. And I have said that a lot to people. Sometimes I felt cheated because, especially when I hear some of the prayer experiences that people had when they prayed for me while I was in my coma, I'm like, I wanted to be there. I want to see. I want to see what they seen, because so many people seen, so much during that time that, like I said, sometimes I feel cheated, but, I do feel like, I was the whole experience. I was what these people needed,
And this whole experience, this is a separate note a little bit, but this whole experience has opened up your eyes and opened up doors to help people, and not the same, but in similar situations where you can pray for them and love on them. And I've heard a couple of stories where you've went and visited people who are in similar situations in the hospital, just to give them hope. And I do, and I listen, and I again, I think it's a God thing. I feel like whenever I hear somebody or I see somebody that has a similar, and sometimes it doesn't have to be the exact same thing that happened with me, but it's just the fact that they're fighting life, or they're fighting a change in life, or they're fighting, I feel drawn to go talk to them, or either go talk to the family. I feel that that kind of gives them hope that that it could be different. Yeah.
And I try, and it and sometimes I'm sad because I feel like lots of people don't have don't get the same experience that I had. They're not as blessed, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And it's sad sometimes, but like I said, again, I think we got to trust in God, and He'll give us the comfort for whatever, because I still have lots of issues that aren't perfect for me. It's kind of like with you having to kind of tell my story. I'm not, although I'm doing pretty good now, but I'm not real good at the talking and the words, the right words to come out. And, that bothers me sometimes, that I'm not the same person that I used to be, as far as being able to speak or talk. And I was trying to think of, at work, whenever I'm talking, sometimes there's words that just
evade you.
Yeah, I can't say them. And a bunch of my nurse partners, they're so good to me, because they're understandable. They understand that, and I mean they'll help me with the words, and they don't make me feel bad because I'm not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean I do have issues, but I'm blessed to get to do what I'm getting to do now. With I get to be a nurse. I get to see my grandkids. I get to help my kids. So I'm very blessed, and I, like Dustin said, I what I do is I try to pray for the other people.
For those of y'all that don't know, my first name is Dustin.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's Dustin to me. And sometimes I do say Broadway. I'm getting better about it. But yes, Dustin is my son. Mm-hmm. But, again, and like Dustin, Broadway says, this is the time of the year, Thanksgiving, that we need to be thankful. And I'm so thankful for Jesus, that he he died on the cross for my sins. I didn't deserve it, but he done it, and with his grace, everything is good, and I'm thankful for that.
Well, I am too, and I'm also very thankful for you. You did a good job raising me, and you've been a fabulous grandmother to my three children, and to your other sons. And well, not a grandmother to your other sons, but you've been a fabulous mother to your other sons. I am full of thankfulness and full of joy in this season. And this is always a fun season for our family, where we can be a little rambunctious when we all get together, but that's part of our charm.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Mom, for being on my podcast.
Thank you for letting me be on your show, and I'm so proud of you. I listen to you every week, and it's unbelievable. That I get to listen to you do that. I guess what I'm saying is, I just never imagined that you would be where you are today, because you weren't that talkative when you were a kid.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And I probably still don't talk a lot in person, but I enjoy talking to people. I don't know. I enjoy doing this, and I love hearing. I think more so, and we've talked about this on this podcast a bunch of times. I love hearing people's stories, and that's part of why. That's one of the main reasons why I do this podcast, because I get to meet new people and hear their stories, and I love that you got to tell your story here, because I think you have a pretty amazing story. What you went through and just the hope that you bring to other people that have similar issues in their lives and stories like this. Thank you guys for tuning in and meeting my mom. Happy Thanksgiving. This comes out on like the 19th, so this is Thanksgiving week. I'm pretty sure Thanksgiving's on the 22nd, so you guys enjoy your dinner with your families, love on them, hug them, tell some stories that maybe they don't know around the table, eat some turkey. I know people say this, but you just never know what is around the corner, and you could not be with them for whatever reason, and you just take this moment to love on them during this time of just thankfulness, and tune in for the next one, which will be the next Monday. And I got another fun person lined up for that one. I think you'll enjoy that podcast as well. They come out every Monday. They're fun. They're a new story, a new person. Eventually I may bring people back for like a second episode, but I got a really fun one set up I'm trying to get set up for Christmas. So it'll be kind of like this, but a little different that I'll bring out for Christmas. And then, I just announced, I think it was last week, that I am doing one on myself. It's going to be the very first one in 2019, provided I can get all the people in place where I have two people that are going to interview me. So that's going to be interesting. I have no idea what they're going to ask, but it should be fun. And just enjoy this holiday. Check you out next week. Bye.
Bye.